the more no's you say, the more self-worth you begin to acquire because you realize how valuable your time is, how valuable your talent, your skill, whatever service you are delivering, whether it's online or whether it's, you're showing up to a store and folding clothes, that's still a service and a skill you are providing. And it's so important for people to realize like I can say no and I don't want to do certain things because the older you get, the less time you have to yourself because we all have to work, we all have to make money. So the time you do have for yourself, you want to enjoy that. You want to be happy.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Welcome to another awesome episode. Today's guest is simply incredible. She's authentic, kind, caring, a role model to many, with a genuine desire to help community and empower others. She's built up an incredible following, which is really inspiring to hear about. Plus, I had a real blast chatting with her, and I'm really excited to release our chat with you all. Also, just a heads up, near the very end, there are a few loud noises or bangs, but they do disappear after about 5 minutes or so. Don't worry though, you can still hear our conversation very clearly. So anyway, let's get into it and officially introduce Ester to the podcast. Ester Tania is an award-winning actor, content creator, and model. She's hailed as the internet's self-care sister with her 2.2 million followers on TikTok. Although many of her original videos are based in beauty tips and tricks, Ester is also renowned for her sisterly life advice, health and fitness routines, and wellness recommendations, plus travel and acting vlogs and wellness recommendations, anonymous story time renditions, and above all, her encouragement of finding self-love and confidence. Ester is also a professionally trained award-winning actress and can next be seen starring in Mashed, an independent TV miniseries which recently made its debut at the Dances with Film Festival in June 2022. She can also be seen starring in the horror film From the Shadows, which recently made its debut at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival. Additional film and TV credits for Ester include Netflix dramedy series Master of None, Marvel's Luke Cage, Showtime's City on a Hill, Sony Pictures' critically acclaimed and romantic comedy feature The Comedian, opposite Robert De Niro, Leslie Mann, Eddie Falco, and Danny DeVito, plus Disney's upcoming romantic sport drama Chang Can Dunk, as well as the upcoming dramedy-fantasy film The Great Wall of Warren, opposite Malcolm Goodwin. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, such as being scammed, sexual assault, acting in social media, happiness, the importance of family, story time, hustle, and being the OG storyteller. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I find it adds a new element and dynamic to these chats. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. But I think this could be hopefully a funny way to start the podcast. Can you tell me about your yoga training scam, or yoga teacher training scam?
Oh my God, the fact that you even know that, man, you did your research. I was 20 and I was so sick of, I had just moved to LA and I was so sick of working. I had three part-time jobs.
Oh, wow.
I was working at a strip club as a cocktail waitress. I had just been sexually assaulted at the strip club, and
Oh, wow.
that was a huge proponent for me wanting to leave, because I was just like, oh, like I can't continue doing this. Even though the money was really good, it was easier than working at a restaurant. It was much easier. And I actually loved the environment of the strip club. I thought it was fun. I got to hang out around girls the entire day, like all these beautiful women. And it was definitely a different experience for me, because I had never been exposed to that kind of world, but it wasn't like the crazy, sinister or debauchery that we see on television and movies. It was very like family oriented. Everyone was friends, and it was really cool. But I got sexually assaulted. It was
Wow.
terrible, and I immediately wanted to leave. So my first thought was, you know what? I'm not going to do waitressing. I'm going to find a job that is steady, that I can make good income. I'm going to become a yoga instructor. So of course, little old me, I had my money saved up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for a certification program or something like that. And I remembered when I was 11 years old, I really got into belly dancing, and I used to play the video cassettes, not like what are they called? Not cassettes,
You mean like you were recording?
like a
Or
tape.
oh yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had these tapes from this Delphina goddess, and it was all about belly dancing and how belly dancing had to do with your chakras and all this stuff. So at 11 years old, I was so into that kind of stuff, and I became really, really proficient at belly dancing. And then a couple of years later, when I was in LA, I was like, oh my God, what about that lady? Maybe she does certification for belly dancing or something. I went on the website, I started looking around, and I was like, yoga, perfect. And the whole thing was like, oh, we go to Costa Rica. It's like a 2-week trip. You do yoga every single day. By the end of it, you'll be certified. We'll even employ you at our studio. All these amazing things. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. And the thing is, I really did do my research. They had their website was full of reviews from like all these women who had successfully become yoga instructors. They were teaching at all these amazing studios in Los Angeles. Some of them were personal trainers or personal yoga instructors to celebrities. So like all these grand things. And I knew that I was totally capable of doing it if I just went to the damn course. So I sent them the money, but it was by check, like a cashier's check. So you had to send it through the mail. And I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, maybe should I do this or not? And it was 2000, probably around the time, I think it was 7,000.
Wow.
At first, they kept asking for 2,000 as a down payment. And I was like, okay, I guess, like what other choice do I have? And the idea was that you paid in increments, you didn't have to pay all at once. So I sent the 2,000 as the down payment. And then they had asked for another round of payment, so I sent it.
Oh, wow.
And then, I totally shot myself in the foot. Like, how did I not even think to say, like, can I get a receipt? Can I get a confirmation email that at least I sent the deposit? Anyway, 2 months later, I'm like, whatever happened to this course? I emailed them, and they canceled the course. They said they canceled it. So no trip to Costa Rica. They said they might do it in LA. So I gave them another couple of weeks to like figure it out. 2 weeks passed by. I contact them again, and they're like, oh, we're not doing it. We're canceling that certification. And they gave me two options. They said, you can come into our studio and take thousands of dollars worth of classes, or we can refund the money and send it to you in a check. And I said, of course, refund me the money. I don't want to take a bunch of classes. And I even went through my emails just like a couple of months ago just to refresh my memory. And I'm like, I was eloquent. I was firm. I said, I want the money back. Thank you so much. But I would prefer to get certification elsewhere. I explained my reasons. I wasn't like, like some panic mess.
In the right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then she kept saying, oh, we sent the check. And then I have emails like that just go like 40 emails a thread. Just, well, we sent the check, and me following up. And every day it was like that. And I would cry in my apartment, just devastated at the fact that I knew I wasn't going to get that money back. I was totally broke. I didn't want to ask my mom for money. And my fiance at the time, who was obviously not the man I'm married to now, he completely was totally dependent on me. I paid off his student loans. I know, it was terrible.
Oh,
I paid off
wow.
the student. I paid for the entire apartment. I paid for groceries. I paid for gas. I paid for everything. And he was the most upset at the fact that I would, just give away all this money that he needed for his student loans. I
Really?
know, man. Like, I
Uh,
look back and I'm like, what? What in the world was I thinking? Like,
uh,
but I did break up with him shortly after that. But
you live and you
yeah,
learn.
the whole story just goes like that. I lost the money. She completely ghosted me, and I thought about it. I was like, maybe I should like do like a better business bureau complaint, or maybe send another email. It is what it is, you know.
You have a very I like that you can like say it with humor and smile. You've done the work, you've gone through it, you've lived and you've learned. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially given everything that was happening before at the strip club as
Yeah,
well. You've got a boyfriend, fiance at the time that's leeching off you. How did you manage after that? Because that's really stressful. There's money, you're going through something
yeah,
very hard and emotional prior to that.
yeah. Damn. I was so wrapped up in the whole strip club thing that it was a total violation. I remember just sitting on the couch and I started watching The Office around that time. So it was the first time I was ever watching the show, and it made me laugh. And I was like, okay, I think I'm feeling better. I didn't tell my family. Gosh, I didn't. Nobody knew except for my fiance at the time, my ex fiance. God, I should stop saying fiance, right? I should just say ex. Huge ex.
Yeah.
But I just remembered I started thinking like, well, I'm just gonna do something else. And I remember I started applying to new jobs, and that's when I became an assistant to Grant Cardone. He's a huge motivational speaker.
Really? Yeah, I've been looking into
Yeah.
him recently.
Oh yeah. He's actually the way he is online is the way he is in real life. He's like a very, very, very high energy, very intense man. And he's extremely hardworking. So anyway, I started working for him, and that kind of solved my money issues because I had a lot of money coming in every single week. But I think it was just like I just have to keep going. I really couldn't rely on anyone. Obviously, my ex fiance was not somebody I could rely on, and I literally broke up with him a week after the whole incident, just because he kept telling me to just get over it. Um,
I'm sorry. Wow.
yeah,
Oh, that
dude,
is
I
the
did not
worst.
want to go back to the strip club because I was so traumatized. And he would literally come home and say to me, he's like, you need to get over it because you have to get back to work. And I was like, I'm not going back there. Like, you
What?
have to understand how upsetting it was to go through that. I'm never going to go back to this place. So I broke
Yeah,
up with
good
him.
for you.
Like, it was, it's like when you look at somebody you love and you're like, oh wait, you're actually really mean and you don't care about me and you don't love me. Of course I'm going to leave you. That's how that went.
I'm very proud of you because in a moment of, and I don't have the words to go through something as emotionally and physically as well, tough as that. Money's also involved. There's stress. You've got someone that
Oh,
you like love and he's not in your circle and he's not
yeah.
protecting, he's not helping you. So you go through all of that and still have the courage because, uh, like, please correct me if I'm wrong. Emotionally, every single person will be not in the best place. And you still have
Yeah.
the courage and strength and also like the knowing within yourself to realize that he's not right for you and to break it off.
Yeah.
How the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
a
come from a
strength.
thank you. Honestly, thank you. Yeah, I do think it is. I come from a very um a family of very strong-willed women. My mom raised us and my five siblings. My four siblings and I were five in total. My sisters are very independent. They've all prioritized their careers. Like, they've dated, but they haven't prioritized getting married. So I always knew uh, I don't have to depend on anybody, and I need to get myself out of this, just like how my mom did. She went to law school at nights. When she was done working at my grandfather's law office, she would go to night school, and she graduated, and she took over my grandfather's office, and she's like the boss. And it's amazing. So I had that huge example, and I also, because I know, and I've known how hard my mom worked to get us through. I cannot. I just don't have it in me to say, well, I guess I'll just give up. And yeah, there's not a single shred of that in me. And there never will be. Yeah. And I'm really glad, because there's been so many other examples of instances where I've been put in positions where I'm meant to do something for something in exchange, or, and that happens all the time in Hollywood. They're like literally the casting couch literally still does it. Still does in the worst way possible. Gross. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Eric Weinberg?
Eric Weinberg. I think so.
If you do a quick Google search, you will see who he is. This man is the worst, inhumane, most terrible person in the entire world. Yeah, exactly him. He's one of those people that did that to me. He was, he's the type of guy that goes up to girls and's like, hey, I'm a photographer, I'm a showrunner for Scrubs, which he actually is. He worked for a huge network, like he had it all, millionaire, invested, one of the first people to invest in Tesla, has, all this money. He would go up to girls at Starbucks. That's how he targeted me. Followed me around for, not followed me, but like, tried to convince me for an entire month to go shoot at his house. I did. I said no. Like, he tried to touch me. He started asking extremely inappropriate questions. Like, do you masturbate? Do you have sex with men? Do you have sex with multiple? Basically all these things while we're at a photo shoot. And I said, stop. This is the reason why for a month I told you I do not want to come to your house to have a photo shoot. I left. Come to find out, a year and a half later, I post a story time on my TikTok about that incident. And I start getting all these comments in the videos saying, I know exactly who you're talking about. He lives in ... His house has a ... He's got a backyard that has this and a car that has that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one, right? Fast forward another year, I get in contact, a private investigator gets in contact with me and tells me, hey, they're investigating this man. Do you want to be involved? And I said, yeah. And the only reason they found out about me was because I posted the TikTok, which went viral.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Insane. So there will never be a part of me that is just going to be like, well, I'll just lay down and I guess quit, or, do whatever it is this person wants me to do.
Well, please correct my wording. It might be clumsy. I don't mean it. How obviously horrible, and I have a huge empathy for you and probably God knows how many other people, but how nice is it that you helped contribute to what looks like putting that guy away or him getting into serious trouble, and that's potentially has helped other people as well.
Yeah. Oh man, I think about that all the time. Like, if I hadn't have posted that story time, 3 or 4 other victims wouldn't have come forward. They wouldn't have gotten in contact with that private investigator who was contacting all these women, and they wouldn't have had all these other details. And like, just the more victims that came forward, the easier it was for the investigators and the LAPD to get a warrant to search his house. Like, it turns out that he had been sexually assaulting his 8-year-old daughter's friend. He raped multiple women over 15 years because he had so much power for all that time. He was a showrunner for Scrubs and all these other TV shows. He had, so in my case, I went with a friend to this photo shoot. Thank God. I think about it. Thank heavens. Because if my friend wasn't there, he could have easily overpowered me, and I have, maybe a 10% chance of maybe getting away. So my best friend went with me. Her name is Jillian Ferry. I thank her forever and ever because she insisted on going with me. And I was like, oh my God, it's totally fine. She's like, are you crazy? And I was like, okay, fine, come along.
Nice.
So what this man would do was he would separate the friends. If the girl came with a friend or a cousin or a sister, he would separate them, put them in different rooms. He would rape one in this room, and then he would go to the other room and rape the other one. Like, that's how sick and heinous this man is, right?
Oh my God.
And to think, he kept doing it up until before he was arrested. He was contacting girls through DM on Instagram and saying like, hey, I saw your pictures. Are you an actress? Are you a model? As if everyone in LA isn't. You know, like, God, man, you couldn't have been in a more perfect place. Show up to Melrose Avenue, go to Starbucks, and be like, hey you, are you a model? Are you an actress? Well, I'm Eric Weinberg, and I can do this and this and that for you.
Wow.
Like, terrible.
I'm glad that you bring that up. I'm also hoping from like a selfish point of view, not even selfish, but from like a humanity point of view, that these things stop happening. And I'm so glad that it's a big story as well, because hopefully it'll prevent the next person. But it's also like mind blowing that he got into that. I know there's a lot of people in power that do awful things, but like Scrubs is the biggest show, and that it was allowed to go on for so long. But at the same time, I'm really proud of you for talking about that, because doing something to someone, it's hard to, it's, you know, I don't know, but it's never happened to me, but it's a very tough situation. But then to go one step further and actually want to talk about it, help people, and you do that also in your life. And we'll talk about this in a sec, but you sound like through your social media content that you're someone that genuinely wants to make the world a better way in your own way. And so it's not just, you're not like fake. You're doing it because you have these core values. I know you spoke about your mum, and we'll also talk about your mum in a sec, but you genuinely want to help people in your way. And I think that's really cool. It's really scary. Sorry they had to go through that, but I'm super proud that you got that out into the open. And yeah, I've said a lot, but just, yeah, that's my little ramble.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And actually, while we're on that, this has come up a little bit, and each time it breaks my heart. I'm hoping, as I said, it gets better. But with like Hollywood, for example, you've been acting for, I think, like over 16 years. You've probably seen it all. That's a long time. And to go through experience like that, and there's probably other things, maybe not to that level, but just like an inappropriate remark or even just being taken advantage of. There's also rejection. There's the yeses, and then they turn into the no. There's a whole whirlwind of emotion. You've now built up this social media profile where you can just do that for the rest of your life, but you still got this love and passion for the craft. What still keeps you going on, like going forward and trying that?
Yeah, nah, you know, that's such a good question, because it's just happiness. That's the answer. It's simple. Just happiness. When I'm on set, I'm incredibly happy and worry free. And even though I know I might have to memorize, 10 pages of lines,
I don't know how
it's
you do it.
it's amazing. Yeah, I have the technique. I have this method, but it's amazing. It's like there's just nothing like it. It's like it's like people who find their dream jobs and love going to work every day and they really look forward to it. That's the equivalent of, for me, it's like landing any project is amazing, but especially when you get to work on a real set with, a director who is actually, contributing and telling you, giving you direction, and you're getting to act with amazing people. And, being on set is like, it's like a high, it's like a proper high. And if I could do that for the rest of my life, I absolutely would. It's just so hard to get work. I'm a classically trained actress. Like you said, I've been acting for 16 years. Not a lot of people have seen me act, but I can tell you, I know I'm good, and I have so much confidence in myself, and I know that, I know I can do it, and I know, but there is so much competition, and there are so many, are things that don't just go to being talented. It's like, are you too tall to sit next to the main character? Are you too, maybe you don't have enough of the thing we need, or maybe you're a little too much of this. It's so subjective, and it's so not objective, that it is incredibly crushing when you realize that, yeah, all those rejections, they're no's. We don't like you. Maybe you're not talented enough, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's the smallest thing, like, oh, her hair is too long. Oh, she's not willing to color or cut her hair. But even though I have so many rejections, I still feel so happy when I'm on set, that the thought of possibly going to set is what keeps me auditioning.
That is so cool. And it's nice that you've got two passions and hobbies, but also to be able to put into perspective. Like, I used to be an accountant, and now I'm doing like podcasts and screenwriting. And I wasn't in the industry long enough, but if something didn't go well, I wouldn't have the mental resilience or strength because I didn't like it. But you kind of, what's really like motivating to hear is that regardless of what happens, and there's so many different variables, we've had examples of people being rejected for a role because of their eye color. And that's just
Yeah.
like, what can you do about that? But to
Nothing.
still go through the experience of acting, and so we've spoken about some really gross stuff, and then we've spoken about just some stuff which was just so annoying. But to
Yeah.
still have that smile that you've got when you talk about it and you talk about happiness, that really shows that you're like connected, and it's just like part of like maybe your calling or whatever the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so that, but I've had, because we're on the topic of that, I've had this whole revelation. It's the year of realizing things and realizations. It's so true. I
No, I
mean,
agree.
but I've realized a huge part of my happiness is my family. And the more time I spent away traveling for work, traveling to go to sets, how lucky am I? I got to be in a TV show that Kevin Bacon is in. But as I was in my hotel room getting ready to go, I would cry because I just was so far from my family, and I'd be like, I should be home. Like, I just want to be home. And like, it's crazy because the older I get, the more of that feeling I have. Whereas when I was young, I was so willing to live away from home and to travel all the time. If I was doing what I'm doing now in my 20s, oh man, I would have been like, hell yeah, take me to LA every 2 months and New York every single week. And because that's how I've been traveling for the past 2 years, just running around filming all these projects or auditioning and going to
Nice.
callbacks. I've been doing that for the past 2 years, that now I'm just like, I almost just want to say no to a bunch of acting work unless it's
Calls to you.
a hefty role in a good production. No, I'm not talking about a blockbuster. I'm just talking about a good script, a good director, a good producer, a good screen. You know what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have certain things that have to be, it has to be worth it, because the more I travel and the older I get, the more I realize I'm like, oh my God, this parts of it don't fulfill me anymore. The constant travel, that doesn't make me happy anymore. It makes me sad. It makes me sad to be in a hotel room where I used to think about, I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally good going away for 2 months and being, living out of my suitcase. And I've been doing that now for 2 years. And I'm just like, I don't want that. That's crazy. I want to be home. I want to be with my family. I like we're very close. Like we cook together, we eat together. We all work from home, thankfully. Like, so much of the time we spend together. Like, we have a beautiful dog we rescued, and he's literally everyone's child, because like I said, none of us have kids and we prioritize our careers. So like, we spend so much time with my mother that, and I started to quantify it. I'm like, how many Christmases do I have left? How many birthdays do I have left? How many years does Audi, our dog, have left? I started to think about that, and I'm like, my happiness is always going to be with my family. So yes, I do love acting. It is my happiness, but I want it to be worth the travel. I want it to, and so many artists, so many screenplay writers, that everyone struggles. It's never just, oh yeah, sure. Like, people assume that I have, like, they're like, oh my God, what have I seen you? And I'm like, probably nothing. Like, I've done a million projects, but it's probably not on Netflix. It's not going to be on Prime. You're not going to see it at your local theater. Like, I have so much experience, but it's disheartening, because it's like, yeah, I might not get those roles, most likely. Like 1% of actors are able to live off of acting work. It's a harsh
That's
truth.
crazy.
Yeah. Not everyone is going to become successful and famous. Most likely you won't. And it's the harsh truth. No matter how much you train, no matter how beautiful you could be or how good at shape you are, that doesn't matter. That's why it's so important, to find other things that make you happy. Like, you were an accountant and now you're fulfilling your artistic needs.
Yep.
And it's thankfully your full-time job right now. But like, you got not even extremely lucky. You just did what you needed to do to get to the place where you are now. And a lot of people are not willing to do the things that they need to do. All the sacrificing and the training and the money you spend to put towards this, and the microphone, the headset you have on, like, all of that is just so much money, and it's so much time and investment that you have to put into everything if you want to reach that goal. But a lot of people don't realize, yeah, acting is not easy. I have to pay for my own flights. I spent, I'm going to be so candid, like, I spent $45,000 in the past 2 years traveling to and from wherever just to pay for my hotel, to just to be in small roles in a small movie or a TV show and have a tiny role where I'm showing my tits. But I'm still anxious to be there because that makes me happy. But at the end of the day, I'm footing the bill. I'm getting paid $800 a day to be there showing my tits. No one's going to be like, oh yeah, we know Ester Tania from TikTok. Let's pay her $10,000 for this role. No, it's a very bleak reality. Like, yes, it's amazing to be on set, but at the end of the day, is it worth it? And that's how I think now.
I think that's really exciting, and thank you for the kind words you said about me. And I've written down 50 points, so we'll see how we go. We'll pigeonhole the hustle because you've really worked really hard in both careers as well. But it sounds like, and the artist journey can be a very poverty-struck one for like most people, but you're at a place now where you can evaluate whether this is a job for you. Is this going to fulfill you? Is it going to be worth it? And I think that's so exciting because, as you said, like,
Yeah.
and so the it can be very tempting. I've spoken to so many people on and off the podcast that they'll kill for any job, but you're still at a place where you're at a place where you can evaluate, is this worth me doing it? There are other factors that contribute towards my happiness. And I think it's so amazing that you've got like another job, passion, hobby that also fulfills you. And that also takes away from the stress of the acting because you've got that. And a lot of people that I've spoken to on the podcast, they're like, one thing was just acting. And that can lead to so much stress because and it can take away from the play and the fun.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going on a bit of a tangent, but this also relates in my mind. You spoke on another podcast that you did a role where you really had to like immerse yourself in a darker character. And through that experience, you learned to say no. And I think learning to say no, like whether it was at the strip club with your boyfriend or your life, that's the most important word that we can really say because you're taking ownership of you and your happiness. So that's really,
1000%. The more no's you say, the more self-worth you begin to acquire because you realize how valuable your time is, how valuable your talent, your skill, whatever service you are delivering, whether it's online or whether it's, you're showing up to a store and folding clothes. That's still a service and a skill you are providing. And it's so important for people to realize, like, I can say no, and I don't want to do certain things because the older you get, the less time you have to yourself because we all have to work, we all have to make money. So the time you do have for yourself, you want to enjoy that. You want to be happy. You want to feel, ideally, no anxiety, because the minute you start feeling anxiety about certain things, it's because you don't want to do it. That's the reality. You don't want to do that. That's why you feel bad. Like, no one's telling you to do it, but so many people say yes to things because, like, you think you have to do it, and then you start feeling shitty, and you're like, oh my God, why don't I want to go on this date? Or why do I have this bad feeling? Because your body is literally letting you know, like, you want to say no, but you're saying yes because you feel like you have to be polite or you have to take on these responsibilities. And acting or being, having an artistic job is one of those things that forces you to say yes to so many things, unpaid work, like participating or contributing or helping out a friend who needs, who's filming a short film this weekend and they need you to be there for whatever. And it's just it's an accumulation of anxiety and stress that, obviously when you watch an actor's interview on, TV or something, they're the 1%. They're the ones that are making all the money.
Yeah.
When you watch Tim Burton, he's that, director writer who's making all the money. He is the 1%. But then people that are not in that 1% as artists know how much it is, or how much of a burden it is to be an artistic person, to want to live off of that, to thrive on that, because you know how hard it is. It's basically impossible. Everyone has to have a side hustle, and no matter how much you try, some people do get very lucky, and I think about it, I'm like, it's those people that just know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you actually become successful, or you actually have, you know, a good run of projects for 5 years, and that takes you such a long way. But yeah, saying no is so important to your own mental health. And because, you know, me myself, I've accumulated so much resentment against people, like friends, or family, husband, exes, because I always did everything and I always say yes. But when I expect it in return, most of the time people don't do things for you the way you would do the things for them, you know?
Everyone's
Like
got
Jesus
different belief
Christ.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I now put, this sounds terrible, but I don't give a shit. I now test people's willingness and consideration for me and time to help me, because I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to text her and just be like, hey, can you just like pick me up and take me to an event? Like I have no car. And I realize how little people prioritize their friendships, or, you know, that feeling of like, absolutely, like I will set a time to go pick you up and drop you off, because I need to know, are you going to be doing that for me? Because I do that for you all the time. I will literally drop everything and help somebody. You need your makeup done, I will literally do that for you. You need clothes, come over and just pick out whatever you want. You know, you need products, you need skincare, makeup, hair care, body care. Come over to my house and just shop. You know, luckily I'm so lucky I get to receive all these products. Thank heavens, it's a blessing. But I'm also like, would you be willing to do that for me? And the older I get, the more I realize, like, yeah, most people don't. It's a harsh wake up call, because you're like, damn.
I know. Everyone's got different, like you've got a very strong family values, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't
Don't.
have that. So it's not even like a
Yeah.
lack of not trying to like care. They just don't have it. It's just not even there.
Yeah, you know
There are
what, man? That's so good of you to say that to me, because my husband tells me that. He's like, Esther, it's not because they're not willing to do that for you. It's that they weren't raised that way, or they don't have that in their history. And I'm always like, but people just should. But I come from a completely, you know, I have friends that say to me like, why do you hang out with your family so much? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you think that way. It's just
Yeah.
not in you, because you don't want to be with your family, you know? But you're so right for saying that.
No, I think it's awesome on your end to have such strong family values, because that's very important for the world, is to have that relationship with family, and also to like have a genuine care. It's a positive. So nothing to yeah, it just, people just come from, what I've realized is that people just don't quite get it. Like if we apply our belief systems, we're in for a hard time, because they don't know. They just not part of what they grew up with.
Oh my God, that's such a good way of putting that. That's such a good way of putting that.
Oh, it's a
Holy crap.
hard lesson. But
Yeah.
I've written down also another 1,000 points, so we'll see how we go. But you know, you've been labeled the self-care sister, and you know, you've really worked at obviously like creating a profile brand for yourself. But within that, you would have had to go on a journey, which we've like spoken about, of like looking after yourself and your mental health. And
Yeah.
I came up with a few points before, but this is probably only skimming it. You must have done some form of like therapy. I know that you've spoken, or you got your family where you can discuss things, but you spoke about coloring, and that's actually really like therapeutic. I think you've also done knitting. What is like some of the stuff that you've done so that you can actually be like the best version of yourself and feel like you can kind of say no to these negative experiences?
Yeah. Okay, two things. One of them is like, of course, you know, therapy is really nice, but I really haven't taken a lot of therapy, because I'm always like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm too busy for this. I'll do it some other time, whenever I have time. Like, who has time for anything, right? Like everyone, you have to schedule hanging out with friends now. But I have watched so many telenovelas, like Mexican telenovelas, and just like very dramatic TV. And there's this one show that I really love. It's called Ruby. Bárbara Moni is the main character, and her character is just like this heartless, soulless woman who takes and takes and takes from people. And growing up, I realized how much I wanted to identify with her because I was like, oh, she's so badass. She doesn't take shit from anybody, and she just does whatever she wants. She walks over anyone to get what she wants. And now that I'm older and I've rewatched that soap opera 7 times in the past 5 years because I love it that much.
Oh, nice.
As I started getting older, I was like, man, she's really mean to her mom. Like, man, she doesn't have a lot of patience. And I started realizing, like, man, there's times where I don't have patience, and there's times where I can be mean to people, or there's times where I say things in a way that I'm not trying to come off as mean, but because I'm not blunt. I'm not even blunt. I don't know how to describe myself. I'm honest.
Speak your
and
truth.
I don't mean, yeah. And when people ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what I think in a non, evil way. Like I have no ill will, like it's not that, but there are moments where I know I can be extremely, extremely honest. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people want to be coddled and told, whatever. Yep. Yeah. And as I watched the soap opera, and this was like back when I was like 23, I was like, okay, I need to be more patient. And it was literally just biting my tongue and realizing, like, especially with family things, like, man, there's just going to be the day where you're going to wish to God you had your mom yelling at you because she's still around. I remember my grandma told me something a long time ago. I was arguing with my mom about how she wanted me to eat meat. I don't eat meat. And she was telling me about, like, you need to eat meat. Your hair's going to fall out and you're going to get wrinkled and all these things. And I just snapped at my mom. And my grandmother later on that day, she came up to me and she said, you are going to wish so badly to have been able to have that conversation with her when she's gone. And, my grandmother, she was so close to her mom. And ever since my grandma told me that, I was like, God, she's right. God, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, my mom just cares, parents care, friends care, when they come to you and they say something that you don't want to hear, it's because they care. And the more you get defensive and push back, it's the more you need to be told these things because you are, in need of help, or people just don't realize how much they need that. And I just remember after my grandma told me that, I'm not saying like, oh my God, I magically turn into the saint and I never get upset or, lose my patience. But I literally always keep those words in the back of my mind because I see my grandma, she talks about her mom, fondly, it's, I used to see my grandfather and how he talked about his mom. So like not a single shred of me ever wants to be their age and be like, man, I really regret having spent so much time arguing with my mom or with my siblings or with friends. So it's just that thing that my grandma told me has taught me so much or given me so much value and in seeing the patience or just the positive side of the positive side of like, whoa, I am so angry right now, but I can do 2 things. I can walk away and I can have some patience and I can just be calm, or I can overreact and be dramatic and be, this person who I'm literally going to hate in 30 seconds because I'm going to be like, why did I say that? So yeah, it's silly how like a telenovela could have done that and like
I think it's
how
great.
I see that. Yeah. And also, with what my grandmother told me, but literally it goes back to like being an actor, being in the arts. Like you learn lessons from watching television and TV, reading books, reading a script, and looking forward to watching a movie, and you're like, man, I do that. Because you start identifying with things and you find yourself, which is why inclusivity is so important, because the more we see POC on television, the more we're like, I can do that, or I don't want to be like that. God, that's a stereotype I don't want to be, Movies and television are so important for that reason, because most of the time, a lot of people don't have access, to therapy. And you don't even realize like, oh man, that's a personality trait I see on TV that I think I have, or I think my partner has. And which is literally literally taking me back to my whole self-care sister thing is when I started TikTok, all I wanted to do was skincare. I had no idea about story times at the time.
It's
And the
such a
more
good
I kept,
idea. Just sorry for cutting you off. It's such a good idea to mesh the two, but we'll get into it. Yep. Go on.
yeah, no, definitely, because I didn't, when I started sharing my story times, about my personal story times, I shared the one about Eric Weinberg. I shared about the experiences I had at the strip club, just other experiences that I had, being bullied as a kid and coming from a single mom, and somebody who works so hard. I started sharing those story times, and so many people in the comments were like, "Oh my God, I can totally, like, this is so me. I experienced this trauma as a child and all these other things." And I was like, oh my God, people want to know that they're not alone and they have somebody they can identify with. And then they can see me and be like, you know what though? Like, if she's doing all these amazing things, I know I can achieve that too. I'm Latina too, or, whatever your background is, you can achieve things and you can relate to people. And it's okay to relate to the shittier things, because at the end of the day, you are going to grow up and you are going to learn from your mistakes, and you are going to have the potential to have a really fulfilling, happy life. And it's crazy how the story times just became a vessel for lessons and people seeking advice and people sharing advice, people sharing their knowledge. And the amount, this is what it makes me so happy, is the amount of girls who send me DMs and say, I started my TikTok channel because of you.
Whoa. Nice.
Yeah. One girl literally said to me, I broke up with my abusive boyfriend.
Cool.
I literally saw a story time you posted, and that night I took all the money I had underneath my mattress. I went to a hotel and I've cut him out of my life. And those are the things that I'm just like, damn, I will continue with it. I will continue sharing these. Sometimes it's like crazy story times, and sometimes it's like, okay, wow, like a bird shit on my head story time. But there's always a lesson, and there's always the part at the end. It's always like, what should I do? I have that little tagline at the end. It's what should I do? Because people literally want advice. They want non-biased advice. And so many of the comments are so genuine in giving their advice. Like, people are actually like, here are the steps you're going to take. 1, 2, and 3, and it's like, wow. Like, sometimes people comment the most amazing things, and I'm like, damn, people are smart. People are into, just like the emotional intelligence to sit there, watch a whole story time, and then proceed to write genuine, thoughtful, helpful advice in the comments. I'm like, this is the community that I want to build. Like, and the more I do that, the more I realize how important it is to share story times, because people don't want to talk about their innermost, darkest secrets, and like, oh, I have an abusive boyfriend, or I was abused as a child. You don't talk about that with anyone. And hopefully you're in therapy and you can talk to that person. But man, it must feel good to send a story time and get just advice from all these people. And you're like, wow, clarity, or sometimes like a light bulb, just like, oh my God, like, it's just amazing.
That is, okay, you're lighting up talking about it. That's amazing. I think, okay. One, thank you for sharing the family story. I think it's such an important, especially for me, to realize that, career stuff will like come and go. There'll be highs and lows, but like, family's there, and it's like essential to, take advantage of that. Very crucial point. But okay, we'll see where we go. So with like, people often talk about the negatives of social media, and look, there are some, but you have been focusing on the positives. You spoke about community, which is obviously a strong value for you, and how you genuinely have this platform that you've created, or this content, where someone can express something which is really tough. So you're normalizing an issue, like, for example, abusive. Yeah. No, we're not normalizing being abusive. We're normalizing talking about being, yes, so that people can step into their power and say no. And then on top of that, first of all, hearing that story is just changed someone as well. Like, someone like me can hear a story like that and be like, oh, and that already sparks something in your brain. But then a step further, and you've got people with genuine care wanting to help people. We don't talk about enough of, and I'm very guilty of this because I talk about the negatives, but you're someone that's doing it right. You've got an enormous platform. You've got genuine care. You're doing something that you love. you're inspiring people, and then you've also got a community where they can help each other. And very rare. And I'm glad that you found that. And I know that I'm just going to throw some more stuff. Like, you didn't just find it like that. You've hustled. You were doing 8 hours a day. You turned it into a full-time job. I think you originally started in 2014, and then I'm not sure if you stopped till you took a break, but you've been working at this for a long time to create an enormous platform where, one, you can grow and benefit and, hopefully, like live and earn money, but also as a massive bonus, help other people. So I think it's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. 2014, I opened my first YouTube channel. I started posting health and nutrition and beauty content. And I, like you said, I treated it like a full-time job. I remember all of 2019, I would consistently post, and I'd film like 7 hours a day, and I'd edit for 4 hours, and I was hustling so hard to get somewhere with Instagram and YouTube, and it just wasn't hitting in any single way. It was just like, but the story time content is what took off so much, but I understand why. We see the beauty and nutrition and the fitness, health influencers and all that. We've seen that so much. It can become so mundane and redundant because everyone is doing it. So what's so special about you, right? I mean, I know what differentiates certain influencers, their personality and how they interact with their community. But the story times is what took it just to a whole other level. Like, oh my gosh, I never, literally fully never expected to have 1 million followers within 6 months of starting my channel. Like, my God,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was. And because I started so far back, 2014, I knew that's what I wanted. But when I reached it, it was it's hard to fully understand because you can't see 1 million people in front of you. You can picture it, but it's hard to see 1 million people.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time, it was like so many videos were getting 5 million, 10 million, 11 million views that you realize, like, damn, these are the kind of videos that people are wanting to see because they're hungry, first off, to be entertained. It comes down to entertainment. It comes down to, wanting to hear the tea and or hearing that someone else's life is worse than yours. It makes you always feel better, right? But it also comes down to the just finding comfort and relating to someone's story time and knowing you're not alone in that. No, it's not weird that this happened to you, and no, it's not normal that you're getting treated this way. Or, one of the big things that I always talk about in my story times is recognizing the red flags, not just your partner, but, friends and family, or even your coworker at your job. Like, you never know. People need to be so vigilant nowadays, which is so unfortunate. Like, my God, people need to be vigilant. But it's true. It's not a thing back in the 50s when it was like, you be careful out there. It's like, no, you really have to be careful at home too, because everyone's on the internet, and kids have so much access. And anyway, I'm going off on something else, but it just became like this clear path of being able to share just simple, sometimes simple videos, but with this grand, story that goes along with it that is just so unbelievable that you need to watch till the end and then give your opinion on top of it. So yeah, the work that I was doing back in 2014, looking back, it was hours and hours and hours of work that I was putting in, but ultimately I wasn't targeting an audience that I knew was going to get value out of it. I wasn't doing any of that because I didn't know how to. And now the content that I put out now I think is so valuable because at the end of the day, like just what happened with Eric Weinberg, me putting out that one story time got 4 victims to come out and speak with the private investigator, and then consequently speak with the LAPD. And I think back to that story time, and I struggled so hard to press the post button on that story time because I was terrified that he would come after me.
Oh, wow, of course. Yeah.
Like I literally had a family meeting and I said, okay, I'm going to post this. My sister's a lawyer, my mom's a lawyer. So I said, if he comes after me, what's the worst that can happen? And they told me, and I was like, you know what? I'm still going to post it because he's horrible. He's horrible. And I know that he must be doing this to other girls. And as soon as I started to see the comments coming in, I was like, okay, this was the right decision. But the impact that the content I put out now has over people is just, oh man, I'm glad it's happening now than back in 2014, because I wouldn't have I wouldn't have been able to make the connections that I have with the audience I have now. Back then it was, I'm not going to say it was superficial, but a video talking about how to get a flat stomach is not as impactful or as I don't know what word to use, but just impactful as the story times that come out now, and the fact that people send me DMs and say like, oh my God, this happened to me. And I saw your story time about this. Can I share this with you? Or, I need advice. Or I get so many questions about dating, like just dating advice. It's like the simple things. And I'm like, the fact that people look up to me and can say, you know what, I'm gonna send Esther a DM and ask her about this. I'm just like, man, oh my God, like thank you for even trusting me with that,
You're an inspiration, and also the reason that I bring up like starting in 2014 is that it's informed your journey. You tried things that may have worked, may have not have worked. It taught you like hustle, made you realize what's actually important to you, so that you could take advantage of this like success that you've got now. Because potentially, only you will know, if you didn't go through that and putting in the hours and trying hard, overnight successes don't really happen. And I know it basically kind of has, but also hasn't with you, because you spent so long doing it before. You really put in the work and you're able to reap the rewards later. And I think that's really important, because people hear that you got like, what was it, like 1 million followers very quickly, but it's the work that you did before then that had also helped you take advantage of that situation.
Yes. Yeah, 1000%. Oh my God, it's like learning a skill and charging, $100 to make a cake. You're not just paying for the cake, you're paying for the years of experience. You're paying for the equipment that you use, the time spent editing, the time, I'm not comparing it to the cake now, but like just the and oh my God, just even the voiceovers that I do, like I manipulate my voice depending on the type of story time I'm posting, and people notice so much, and they're like, are you okay? Like sometimes if it's a more somber story time, like I'm not doing I have like a tagline where I say, disclaimer, is not my story time, send me on Instagram. And I change that tagline to fit what the story time vibe is going to be. If it's a very somber one, if it's like something really serious, or if it's more like, oh my God, I caught my boyfriend cheating on me. I can say that tagline in so many ways. Like sometimes like, disclaimer, is not my story time, send me on Instagram. And then people are always in the comments trying to figure out how to spell the way I say Instagram.
Oh, you're an artist.
Yeah. And like, it's magical to see that they notice those tiny things. But all of that, all of the way that I do my voiceovers, and like even with my vlogs or just makeup tutorials, or anytime I'm doing a voiceover, it doesn't have to be for the story time. I'm always aware of what I sound like, because I've had years and years of experience with voiceover work, with all the voice work I did in Stella Adler. And it's just like, damn, like I have been preparing, for the past 20 years of my life to get to this point and be able to do what I'm doing now successfully and doing it well. I started editing back in 2014, and I bought all this like fancy equipment, which I never ended up using because I just wasn't able to. And now I'm on my cell phone. Like most of the time I film on my cell phone, I edit on my cell phone. And, all of this experience that I've had just makes it so much easier for me to understand what I need to do for this video to be more impactful. And like the small things that you can say, or like how to write the script for the voiceover. Like it's just incredible to see, because with the experience I have, I realize sometimes I'm like, like I get why my story times can be so catchy, because I know what I need to say in the first 3 seconds, or how I need to make my voice sound so that people understand, like, oh, this is serious, like this is some serious shit, or like, oh, we're gonna hear the tea today, like what's the gossip. So I'm really grateful to myself that I've been able to apply everything I've learned in the past 20 years and put it into this thing that, God, I had no idea would even exist, you know?
So awesome. And as I said, I've written down 1,000 points, but maybe this could be like the last one. I think it's so awesome to hear your journey of like the hustle and the strength and the courage, the inspiration, the community values, and how you've got a genuine desire to help like yourself and also other people. I think I read in one of the articles that you kind of had to change your viewpoint of like comparing yourself to other like beauty people in the space. And I think that's really, really exciting because it's so easy to compare ourselves, whether it's as an actor, as an accountant, or as, you know, it being in social media. We all kind of do it. But at the end of the day, through my perspective, you can only really do the best as ourselves. We can take bits from other people, but to be them, it's not going to work out. So I'd love to know, why did you decide to like shift towards more of you and be you and not necessarily compare yourself to other people?
This really all this not comparing myself began early into TikTok, because I sat back and I would rewatch my old YouTube videos, and I started thinking like, damn, I was really taking inspiration from all these beauty bloggers and influencers. Even the way that I was talking was so different the way I speak. You know, just referring to a blush, like the terminology that I used, everything was so rehearsed, and I wanted for the person that was viewing that video at the time to feel like, oh, she knows what she's talking about, she knows about makeup, even though I had zero clue. Like, I was literally learning off of YouTube. I had no idea. And when I started TikTok, I was like, I am not going to do that, and I need to, as much as I can, get rid of that persona, that like that you know, that persona you put on when you're, it's like when people say like when the cameras are on you, like you completely freeze and you change, or like the way you speak is different. And I had to really be conscious of that, because it was hard for me. It was hard for me to not sound like a beauty influencer. It was hard for me, and it was hard for me to not want to sound like that. And yeah, because I had this perfect idea of what, you know, beautiful content I should be making. And like, if you scroll all the way back to my TikTok, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, the first video was like this beautiful glossa video going over my skin and talking about the benefits. That is so not me. Like, that is so not me. And I felt like I had to do that because everyone else was doing that, and everyone else was so successful doing that I wanted to be included. And it was so far from what I wanted to do, but I just felt like, oh, this is what I have to do in order to make it on TikTok or for a video to go viral. So I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm realizing something. I have my own way of speaking. I know that I can sound eloquent, or I can sound just, you know, like, man, whatever. I'm not making full sentences right now, but I know what's relatable to people. People don't want to hear the perfect, you know,
Great.
you know, version of you know, this beauty person. And especially on TikTok, people want to see real
Authenticity. Yeah.
I said to myself, stop comparing yourself to all these beautiful influencers who have millions of followers, who make thousands and thousands of dollars off of every single video. Just just be yourself. And that's when really it started changing for me, because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put on a lot of makeup, or I'm not going to wear jewelry, or I'm not going to fix my hair perfectly. And it's totally, totally fine. And that's when I started getting comments from girls saying like, first person I've seen on this app that's not worried about lip filler, first person that I've seen without lip filler, first person that I've seen tying their hair back on camera, like not having like a perfect setup. Like I literally was in front of my window with my phone, like my old phone. Like I had no you know, just no aspirations to be aspirational, you know, like I didn't want to do that. And the more I did that, the more I realized that people are not coming back for the videos, they're coming back for me, and they're coming back to hear my personal story times, which also became scary because people wanted to pry more into my life. And I was like, damn, like I can't, like I can't go to certain places because it just wouldn't be okay for me to do that to myself. And it was really good for me to do that. And I'm glad I did it so early on because I was able to push aside all these like ideas I had of like what I should be doing online versus what I could be doing. And as soon as I did that, it's like, whoa, like I could really be talking to people, like seriously, like be talking to them in a way that they aren't being talked to by anyone else, because nobody is sitting down and telling you their deepest, darkest secrets. You know, not a lot of people were doing that at the time. And I know that it's really nice now. People call me the OG storyteller. And I know that there was one or two girls at the time that were doing story times when I was doing them, when I started doing them. So I would never take credit for that, but it's so nice to hear people say that to me because they've obviously followed me for so long that they remember 2 years ago when I was doing that. Oh. And yeah, it's nice because I realized like I didn't need to be doing all the things that I was doing, like adding all the bells and whistles and making my editing like superb and like, like a better lens, better camera quality. I was so concerned with all those things when I was doing YouTube. When TikTok came around, it was so freeing because I was like, you know what? I have an hour to film. I can do that. I can actually sit down, film in an hour, edit within that hour, and post a video. And it was like, it was life-changing, but
That's awesome. What we're going to do is the quickest rapid fire segment in the history of the podcast. So the first thing that springs to mind, I won't comment on them because I'll just derail them. Next big dream or goal?
My own makeup brand that is made by me and my family, and we're all going to do it together because yeah, that's my next biggest goal.
Very cool. I know I wouldn't comment, but that's still very cool. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Start doing it today. Just start today. Stop making up excuses. For example, I get that question a lot about content creation. And I say, stop making up excuses as to why you can't start filming today. You don't need a better camera. You don't need a better phone. You don't need better lighting. You just need yourself and a cell phone and, a window. Everything is so accessible now. There are so many ways to do so many things. If you want to get into nutrition, watch some videos, read a book, whatever the case may be in whatever you want to do, just start today. And I think that is the most important thing. Like, when are you going to start if it's not today?
Agreed. And if you could go back into a time when you were first starting out, what advice would you give yourself?
None.
Oh, that's a great answer.
What I did was, looking back, huge sacrifices, not spending time with my family, filming until 2, 3 in the morning, not eating because I was prioritizing filming. I'm not saying to do those things. I'm not, in any way telling people to do that. But man, oh man, if I hadn't have done that at that time, at that exact time when I was taking advantage of the trends that were happening, jumping on my own bandwagon and taking my videos further and further, if I hadn't have done that, I might not have reached that 1 million so quickly. I might not be where I am right now. But then again, of course, there's a million things I could have done to be further ahead now. But I'm too grateful for what I have right now that I wouldn't want to change anything.
Brilliant answer. Last one before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
Oh man, that's a good question. You should have asked me, tell me your secrets to growing your social media following, but actual tangible things that people can practice now.
And how would you answer that?
Okay. Like I said, start today. Don't make excuses. write a list of all the videos that you want to create and do them well. If you yourself love watching your own content, that means a lot of other people are going to enjoy watching your content. But you have to be self-aware and see, oh, wait, this is actually really good. Oh, wait, this is really bad. Maybe I should just film that. Be aware of what your videos look like to yourself. If you enjoy it, then keep doing it. If you don't, you got to change something. Go live every single day. This is the only way you are going to actually connect with your followers. Because people want to ask questions. And as soon as you start asking questions or answering questions, some people might just say, can you say my name? My name is Diana. Say my name, say my name. Saying their name will have them come back because they remembered, oh, she answered my question. And I have so many people on my lives come to me months later or even years later saying to me, you once answered a comment that I had a long time ago. I love your content. And I'm like, oh my God, and a live is so impactful because it's literally them asking you questions. So many people sit there doing their makeup or, whatever, and not answering questions. And it makes people upset because at the end of the day, your followers want to interact with you. That's why they're going to go onto your live. They don't want to just watch your pretty face all the time. They want to answer your, ask you questions and have you answer because they want to know more and more about you. So I think it's so valuable to go live every single day, even if it's for 20 minutes or an hour. When I first started, I really do, say that going live really helped me grow quickly. I used to go live sometimes 4 to 6 hours a day.
Oh,
and that was
wow.
because and when I'm telling you about sacrifice, I was on a live. I would be driving to the gym, at the gym, answering questions, going home, cooking my meal. Even at the supermarket, I was going live. I was going live when I was doing my makeup, when I was doing my skincare, when I was spending time with my family, walking the dog, all of these things that you don't think, oh, I shouldn't be going live right now, but people might be interested in seeing what you're cooking. You never know. You might have, your content might not have anything to do with food, but at the end of the day, they're coming for you. They're clicking on your live because you are live. So I would say go live every single day.
That's crazy. I never thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, even on Instagram, go live. On YouTube, you have the option of going live if you have a certain amount of following. Go live, answer questions, or even, and this is super important, ask them questions. Don't just sit there and wait for people to ask you questions, because you need to be interested in them too. They need to see that you are there for them. And I say this, I literally just answered questions for an interview I had, and I said in the question, my followers have a bigger influence on me because all of the content I make and will ever make is for them. It's what they want to see. It's how they want me to make the content that I'm making the content. I'm always reading their comments and answering questions through a video from the comment section, because I know how impactful that is for that person to actually be answered a question in a video format. It's important for them to be like, oh, I want to ask her about this lipstick. I'm answering your question in a video, and your comment is seen there. I'm telling you exactly what lipstick I'm wearing. I'm putting it on, and I'm thanking you for even sending me the question. These are the like 101 values. Like, my God, it's like talking to a person you've met for the first time. I hate this. You meet people and they never ask you questions. It's like, oh my God, so now I got to run the whole conversation because you have zero, curiosity about me. Okay, rude, but this is how a live works. You're meeting them for the first time. If you're going live for the first time, you're meeting so many people for the first time. Ask them, where are they from? Where are you watching from? What did you guys have for breakfast today? What color should I use for my shirt today? What are your plans for later today? These are all such tiny things, but that person, whether you have five people on your live or 5,000, these people will remember that you asked them a question and that you answered their question. It's human interaction online, and that's what people want. That's what people crave. The other thing I would say is make the content that your following wants to see. Don't force content that is completely different to what you've been posting for a while, because people are not attracted to that. They come to you for a certain type of thing. Now, I'm not saying don't ever make new content, but slowly introduce it and do it in a way where you're still relating it to your following or your niche. I started making a lot of vlogs about my life, like day in my life as an actress, but at the end of the day, it was always about the lesson or the drama of that day. I'm still roping them in and still getting their interest, because I know that they're interested in seeing the drama. They're interested in seeing me. And these are all tiny things that you don't realize how much value it has, that the content that they are requesting is being made, which is the other thing. I answer when somebody leaves a comment. You can either reply to the comment or you can answer with a video on TikTok. I use that all the time. I will grab someone's question and I will reply in a video format. So the video that I'm posting is directly linked to their comment. This is such a valuable tool. Like TikTok is such a genius app. It makes interaction between you and your following so easy. There is no excuse to not be able to connect with your audience, because like people say all the time, like, how do you have like this relationship with them? And like, they always come back to your videos, or like even them getting upset at me not uploading a video makes me happy, because I'm like, yes, they want to see my content. I'm not going to get upset or stressed about that. I am so grateful that they are there to watch my content. So I'm going to fulfill their desires. They want to see another story time, I will post a story time. They want to see a get ready with me, I'm going to post a get ready with me. And I know that, of course, like you need to make the content that makes you happy, but at the same time, you need to nourish and, or what's the word? Take care of the following you already have. And as soon as you stop doing that, that's when people are going to feel you are being a fake, you know?
Authentic.
Yeah. And just give me a minute, because I know there's something else that I wanted to say. I'm just trying to remember what it was. You see, I could talk about this all day long.
I think it's amazing. When I hear passion and excitement, it's contagious.
Yeah. And I've even said this, like, I should be hired as a speaker to like teach people how to grow on TikTok, or just even how to
Definitely.
just, you know, like, oh my God, it's just insane how these small little things, of course you should go live every day. But I didn't think of that. You know, when I first started out, I got inspiration from other people, and I'm like, damn, this girl's on live every single day. Maybe I should do that. And I was like, okay, this is what it is. This is where it's at, because they want to see you. They want you to interact with them. You know, sometimes I get comments like, oh my gosh, you have 2 million followers. Like, oh my gosh, like you're famous. And I'm like, no. I'm sitting in my house talking to my phone, answering comments or questions about, you know, like, what's my favorite movie? Like, these are the mundane questions that are not even mundane, but just like regular questions. It's not like, oh my God, you guys, I went to New York Fashion Week. They don't care about that. They don't find that relatable. They find you and your personal life or your own things relatable. And I guess that would be another thing, is when you're making your content, don't make it so rehearsed. Don't try to sound like an influencer or an internet personality. Just be yourself and have fun. Oh my gosh, have so much fun. If you're not having fun making the content, then you need to stop now, because you're not. Yeah, you should love it. You should love it so much that you want to do it every single day. And I'm sure you love what you do, because you job, right?
Okay, you've given me so many points as well. Thank you. I love your passion and your energy. Before we go, how can people follow you?
I'm Ester Tania J on both Instagram, TikTok, and Ester Tania on YouTube as well. I would say if you want to follow me anywhere, follow me on TikTok. I'm literally on there every single day. Instagram is just, you know, kind of on the back burner, because it's not as fun as TikTok, to be honest. But yeah, that's where I am. And if you guys want to keep up with me, send me a DM, ask me any questions you want. I'm always checking my DMs. I try to as much as I can.
Awesome. And they will be in the episode notes so people can check it out as well. Thank you so much for your time. You're a light, empowering, and I wrote a few more words, inspiring soul. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Michael. How do you say your last name?
Kahan.
Kahan. Wait, that's so weird, because the Australians don't pronounce the H, right? Like,
no one gets it right. You're the
Oh,
only
wait.
one to pick up on it.
Pronounce the H. It's herbs, not herbs.
Herbs. My
Herbs,
family's
yeah.
also South African, so I get a few words slightly
Oh my God.
off. Yes. So thank you for picking up on that. I really appreciate it. Go and enjoy your family. You are amazing. This is really empowering for me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you for even reaching out to me. Like, your questions are amazing.
I love Esther's take on comparing ourselves to others. It is so common to admire successful people and attempt to emulate them. There is nothing wrong with looking at others for inspiration, empowerment, and motivation. However, it is important to maintain your individuality. We need more people in the world to simply embrace their best selves. Being true to your character ensures that you stand out. There are plenty of other humans out there, but none are as unique as you. To thrive means simply striving to become the best version of yourself. That doesn't mean don't emulate or learn about aspects of others. It simply means don't lose yourself in the process. Esther speaks about how in the early part of her career, she tried to be someone else. Pretty quickly, she realized that she needed to embrace her own individuality and work with what she loved best in order to inspire herself and her content. And the rest is history. So I'll leave you with this epic quote by Zen Shin. A flower does not think of competing to the flower next to it. It just blooms. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.